we were taught as young women to walk, convent schoolgirls.
Pencil straight, no swing of the hips.
Pencil straight, no swing of the hips. You're absolutely right, because that's what made you a lady. The Kama Sutra. Women were taught to walk wearing flower garlands around their hips. So you had to sway your hips to make sure that they didn't fall off. And you had to walk at a certain pace. It was a very powerful walk. You can't just suddenly say, okay, till you get married, you have to be this pure virginal person who never thinks about that. And then suddenly, as soon as you get married, for your husband, you have to be this super sexy babe in the bedroom, but not so outside.
The entire narrative of shame that is placed on women, it wasn't like that earlier. How did this narrative of shame creep into our lives and into our culture?
The bow was brought into our narrative in order to control. I think over time, the shift that happens, and it's not just with the coming of the British.
Mm-hmm.
It starts before that. A lot of people like to retell their Ramayana from Sita's point of view. It's mostly about her emotional anguish.
Mm-hmm.
We don't talk about her strength. Nobody wanted to be like her because she's portrayed in a way that you don't wish to see yourself.
What were the biggest myths that you came across and that you've tackled in the book?
Oh my goodness. Loose vagina. The loose vagina myth.
So lovely to have you on the show today, Seema.
Thank you, Kiran. Thank you for having me. And it's just so lovely to be with you again.
We've been wanting to chat with you for a long time. Today, Shunali couldn't be with us because she has a new book out and she's out on book promotions, but we had to have you. And congratulations on the new book.
Thank you. It's been really hard work getting that done because I don't know if you know the background of the book. But basically, these are all the questions that people send to me on their concerns, their worries, and the little things that you can never go to anybody with, and they bother your brain so much, and everybody thinks that only they feel like that. And so we needed to write something which was more than 30-second reel content with proper explanations, and to let people know that thousands of people write those questions in, so not to feel alone.
And you've been on this whirlwind promotional tour.
Yeah. Can you see the bags? Can you see the tiredness in my eyes?
I can't see anything. We'll have to get a magnifying glass. You're looking lovely.
That's why I love you. And of course, I love the fact that you love me and the fact that you've got bad eyesight. I love both things. So.
No bad eyesight. I can see very well. Seema, I have been watching your journey ever since we met at the Times Lit Fest in Calcutta many years ago. And back then you were on the lecture circuit. COVID happened. You became this mega sensation. Tell us about that entire shift and that pivot, because it's so important. Seema, I think we women sort of get stuck in something and then an opportunity arises, and very often it's midlife when this happens and when we come into our own. So I'd like you to talk a bit about what happened and how this all came about.
So as you said, I was on the lecture circuit. It's something that I still do. It's actually the main part of my work. And that's where the money is, etc. For me, that's where my work is. But yes, when we met, I was sort of on this lecture circuit where I would sort of go in person to different places, different organizations, do the talk. And then COVID happened. And literally, I was booked to travel 3 days after lockdown was declared. Tickets were ready, the event was ready, everything had been done. The payment, the prepayment for the thing had been done. And obviously everything stopped. Now, initially, we kind of struggled because nobody knew how long it was going to take. So we thought, abhi khul jayega. It was around the same sort of time that my daughter finished university. And by chance, because of COVID, she was at home for her final term of the third year. She hadn't got a job at that point. She wasn't out partying. And she said to me one day, "Pam, you can't travel right now. We've got to adjust your work onto social media." And this is the same child who a few years before I'd said to her, I think I should join Instagram. And she said, don't be silly, Mom. People your age don't join Instagram. And then she was like, let's start this. So we started it in June of 2020. So, I mean, the account had existed from before because I was like, I can be rebellious. I can have my account, but I didn't know what to do with it. June of 2020. And it took us a good while to actually understand what to do, because I'd done stuff on YouTube before that. I was used to talking at length. She said to me, in those days, the reels were 30 seconds on Instagram. She said, you have to do this in 30 seconds. The biggest fights would happen because I was like, this is the worst way to do anything around sexual health or pleasure, because anything said in 30 seconds is going to create so much misinformation. And she was like, no, this is what has to be done. So it was a whole learning curve of how to actually condense all those hours of work into 30 seconds. Because on YouTube, and I'd done a series of short films for the British Museum, etc., we were told 3 minutes, 3 to 3.5 minutes is the way to go. That's the ideal watching time. From my 1 hour talks, it had come to 3.5 minutes. Now I'm being told 30 seconds. It was extremely tough. She actually did hold my hand through it all. She taught me what to do. Started it, filmed it, edited it, did all of that. And I think COVID was the time when people were really consuming content. And maybe they just needed this. There was so much mental health issues and there was so much need for more stuff. And yeah, that's where the transition happened.
That's where the transition happened. And I love the fact, Seema, that you gave women back agency in a certain way. You spoke about female desire, you spoke about consent, you spoke about embracing your sexuality. And these were topics that no one expected a woman of a certain age to be talking about. And I still remember the kind of flack you got for it and still keep getting for it.
Yeah. It was not easy. I was not used to that kind of thing. You know, when you do a lecture circuit, you're being paid a big amount of money to arrive somewhere for people to hang on your every word. You go onto social media, you're providing the same thing for free to be abused. I mean, it was like, what am I doing? Why am I here? But, you know, it was so important, Kiran. We have spent decades, centuries, telling women to shrink themselves. Just before we started, I was telling you about the fact that I was supposed to upload this reel, which I still haven't, of course, where we were taught as young women to walk, you know, convent schoolgirls, with your books on your head, and you walked because that made you walk like a lady.
Pencil straight, no swing of the hips.
Pencil straight, no swing of the hips. You're absolutely right. Small little steps, because that's what made you a lady. In the time of the Kama Sutra, women were taught to walk wearing flower garlands around their hips. And these garlands were worn a little bit loose. So you had to sway your hips to make sure that they didn't fall off. And you had to walk at a certain pace. So it wasn't just that you were thrashing your hips around. It was a very powerful walk, because you walked at a certain pace and you swayed your hips and you kept your core tight because you were holding this garland in place. And this is that famous Gajgamini walk. This is how you learned. And my physio constantly would tell me a few years ago, don't sway your hips. That's bad for your back. It wasn't when you did it right. But I loved the fact that here were women being taught to embody their sensuality from when you were young, when you were a little girl. Like, you embodied who you were, your femininity, your sexuality, your sensuality. None of it was wrong. It was part of you. But you can't just suddenly say, okay, till you get married, you have to be this pure virginal person who never thinks about that. And you walk with your books on your head and very, very straight. And then suddenly, as soon as you get married, for your husband, you have to be this super sexy babe in the bedroom, but not so outside. I mean, come on, how dysfunctional do you make somebody by giving them these opposing directions? But yeah, basically, we have tried really hard. When I say we, people like you, people like me, a lot of other people out there, to give back the agency to women and to shed that guilt that has been ingrained and embedded in our DNA.
The entire narrative of shame that is placed on women, it wasn't like that earlier. You're an expert on our ancient texts and how desirability, sensuality, everything was written about, spoken about. It was equal agency back then. And it was a woman was entitled to a desire. How did this narrative of shame creep into our lives and into our culture? And why is it so difficult to get rid of?
I think people like the idea of narratives of shame because it makes it easier to control people. I mean, if I say to you, you're a free person, do whatever you want, I am not able to control you. You are harder to control.
Absolutely.
And so I think shame, stigma, taboo was brought into our narrative in order to control. Now, the thing is that people forget, when people pull out things, let's say, from certain texts which are derogatory towards women, and there is plenty of that too. We have a belief system, the Hindu belief system, that goes back thousands of years. It contains millions of texts, scriptures, books. You can literally find every philosophy, every aspect of human life, anything that touches human life, every perspective of that aspect in these texts. So you have an equal amount of places where something is said, where somebody will say this is terrible, and an equal amount of spaces where somebody will say it is beautiful, it's wonderful. So there are people tearing down the idea of sexuality and sensuality. And there are people saying that this is actually where the balance of the universe comes from, the pleasure of a woman. Now, we had this, I guess, at some point as it goes forward. I always say that the Kama Sutra, for instance, there are thousands and thousands of versions of it because every king who came to the throne of his own little kingdom would have it recommissioned, because this was a very important part of life and very important for relationships, for the stability of relationships. I think over time, the shift that happens, and it's not just with the coming of the British. It starts before that.
Okay.
The patriarchal narrative embeds itself. And what is more important becomes the narrative to play into. So who do you need to give more power to? Who do you need to assuage with your words? Who do you need to make feel more powerful? Whose sort of support do you need? So you're now playing into their needs as well. It's very much like the lobbies that you have today, I think over time, it is just somewhere the thing shifts from the fact that the stability of society comes from good, stable relationships, which is what the Kama Sutra aims at, to the fact that the stability of a person comes from how much money they have and how much power they have.
Okay.
And that then shifts to what the male should have, his importance. And society gradually shifts. I wish I could say that the shift happened at a particular time. I can't. There is no such space in history that we can actually see the...
So it's just a gradual shift that has happened over centuries and centuries.
It's a gradual shift that has happened. And of course, the imperial rule, the British Raj, did not help because their ideas were such. Having said that, it is a British man, an Englishman, Richard Burton, who translates the Kama Sutra.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
In the 1800s. Does a bad translation of it, but translates it.
He attempts it, yes.
Because also we come from a culture where it was not considered necessary to translate for the ordinary person. These books were written for the elite of society. And it was believed that if you could not read it, it was not meant for you. So it was not translated for the average person. So we don't have centuries of translations being offered to us. Ke, tum aise padho, isko aise samjho. That wasn't done. So, it's been pretty much open to anybody who came along to mistranslate. And here we are. And now, and you know what's really awful, Kiran, is I spent a lifetime studying, okay? I started working on narrative practices, on stories, the stories we tell that establish women's roles in society. Started working on that in my second year of college,
Okay.
1981.
That is a lifetime.
Yeah, it is a lifetime. 1981. I started college in 1980. Like 1981, I start working on this. And I start to read our ancient texts and I start to read the translations. And I feel by the time I get to my mid-50s, my 50s, I'm like, I have a head start. Like I started early. I know now that this text says this. You get to your 50s and you realize how much mistranslation there is.
Okay.
I am having to relearn everything.
Okay.
So I'm having to restudy everything. So unlearn what I learned and relearn. And it's bloody hard work because my brain no longer stores as much information. Honestly, I have an entire bookshelf and I can tell you that I have read in my home, which I actually film in front of that often. I've read every book on that shelf because it is a workbook, it's a study book. I have highlighted passages over there after I'm dead and gone. I don't know who's going to get those books. My kids won't want them. They will go to charity shops and people are going to find the weirdest notes and weirdest bits highlighted over there. But I can tell you where every passage that I need to refer to is in those books. Today, the books that I read, I can't. I have to make notes separately to say, go back to this place for this. But I've had to unlearn all that. So it is extremely hard work. But I really feel that these texts are worth exploring and they're worth exploring well.
Have you ever been tempted to do a translation or your interpretation of any of our classics? Maybe the Kama Sutra itself.
I have never been tempted to do an interpretation or translation of it. What I did do with my first book was that I translated the metaphors. So like any other ancient text, the Kama Sutra is written in metaphors. So, people say, "Arey, Sanskrit mein nahi padhi." Just because you know Sanskrit doesn't mean you will understand the text. Like if you read the Gita, you will not understand it just because you read Sanskrit. Because everything is written in metaphor. You have to understand what the meaning of those words is. It's the same with the Kamshastras. So I wanted to basically translate the metaphors because these metaphors are what have then been used for the next 2,000 years of our literature. Authors have referred to that. Kalidas writes everything based on that. Jayadev in the Geet Govinda. There's a beautiful passage in the Geet Govinda where Radha is getting dressed to go and meet Krishna. And so she's doing her shringar. And with each thing that she puts on, she feels happier and happier. Like with each thing, she puts on her kajal and her heart feels this little beat of excitement. Then she puts on her earrings and there is another little beat of excitement. Right at the end, she puts on a little lotus bud behind her ear and her heart sinks. Okay. No idea why. I don't know why that was. It was much later. I think I found this in a passage from Lee Siegel. So the idea was that you were not, in ancient times, you were not supposed to make love between 3 and 6 in the morning. That was the time you wake up, you get dressed, you bathe, you say your prayers, you start your day. So that was like the time to get up and so on. Now, if you were inside and the curtains were closed, you did not know that the sun had come up, like dawn had appeared in the sky. But they say that the lotus blossoms as soon as the dawn comes up. So it was like your little
timekeeper.
So this is what denotes when it will come to an end.
Oh.
And in our literature, they never say, okay, now it's 6 o'clock in the morning, you have to get up, it's 3 o'clock. It's always shown, painting, music, literature. The woman is trying to cover up her ear because she doesn't want her lover to see that has blossomed and that she has to leave him. And it is so exquisite to understand it. And as you can see, I get very excited when I talk about it. But basically, when this is in music, so for instance, to wake up in the morning, you have Rag Bhairav. And Rag Bhairav is a very sort of stern, like a father saying, "Ut jao." For that lotus blossoming, you have Rag Bhatyar. Rag Bhatyar, when it plays, it shows you that this is that extra 15 minutes that you're getting where you've hidden your lotus flower. 15 minutes of ongoing in your lover's arms before you actually have to leave. And that 15 minutes, because it's so finite, is the most exquisite time of all, because the rest of the time, the entire night you could have been together, कि अच्छा बहुत देर है. But this is now so limited, so finite.
It's bittersweet.
It's bittersweet. And I just love that there is a rag for it.
Mm-hmm.
There is an entire metaphor for it. There's a visual for it, which is so exquisitely beautiful. So, yeah, in answer to your question, very long answer to your short question, that for me, I do not think that any one of us have the capacity to translate the text the way that I would like it to be translated. For me, it's the metaphors that have to be translated.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to go and read what is being written. The Kama Sutra is like a taxonomical book. It's like an accountancy book. It just lists things. There are 800 types of kisses. When you turn your face to the left, it is the left side kiss. You turn your face to the right. Yeah, there's no feeling in that. But it's all these words that have been taken and put into the poetry of Kalidas or the poetry of Jayadev or the poetry of Bhanudatta. That's where it comes alive. That's where it becomes really beautiful. So I think it's important for people to understand that bit. I studied the Kama Sutra from the Shringhara metaphors, so, as opposed to just the listings. Yeah.
I remember a story you told me many years ago about a queen and her lover and a jealous king. And I still think back to that story and think our women back then were so adventurous. And the people who chronicled these stories allowed the women their agency. They were not written in a way to mock them or to look down upon them. The agency was as valid as that of a male. What do you think the women of today can learn from the women of those times?
So for me, I always think that the old stories are like role models. When I was growing up, yes, my mother was my role model, my grandmother, my great-grandmother. They were all working women. They were all highly educated women. They become your role models, but they're not your social role models, because when you step out into society, society is telling you something else. The stories that are being told around you are very different. And people always used to laugh at me and say, if you bring back these stories, do you think suddenly women will get empowered? Yes, they will. Because you are actually now listening to stories of how women could behave and would behave, and it was okay. It's that whole idea of validation.
It was okay.
Yeah,
that's the most okay. That's the most important.
And I think that these stories were important for that reason, and I think they were silenced for that reason. So I always say that, for instance, the Ramayans, there are many, as you know, many thousands of Ramayans written as well. There are 3 that were written in the 1600s by women, which never made it to court. They never made it to the court readings, and they're largely forgotten. Today's time, a lot of people like to retell their Ramayana from Sita's point of view. But I find that there's very little research. It's mostly about her emotional anguish. We don't talk about her strength. And I have to say that growing up, I don't think I knew anybody who wanted to emulate
Sita,
this lady. Nobody wanted to be like her, because she's portrayed in a way that you don't wish to see yourself. Okay, every man wants his wife to be like that, but no woman ever wanted to be like that. And I find, for instance, if you take that very tiny little, let's say the time that she is in captivity, she's been kidnapped by Ravan. She is in his palace, surrounded by the female guards. She's there. She's there for a year. In this 1 year, we hear about the adventures of Prince Ram and Prince Lakshman and Hanuman as they travel through the country, gathering forces, people that they meet. Some become friends, some become enemies. We hear about their adventures one tiny little bit at a time, each thing. Nobody ever talks about what she's doing. She's all alone, surrounded by the enemy. She has to have her wits about her. How frightened she must have been.
And how strong.
You don't know. You don't know what's going to happen to you. But how she has her wits about her, that she's not so nice to them that they can take advantage of her, and yet not so nasty that they harm her. She's got that balance just right. I want to hear those stories.
Mm.
I want to hear how she did that. Like, what did she do? What were the conversations that she had every day? How did she deal with that? When she's kidnapped by Ravan and she's in his flying chariot, and there is Jatayu comes to fight, right? And again, we have a blow-by-blow account of the two of them fighting. Every blow they strike each other, every bit of blood, every shudder, everything is described. All we're told is that she quickly takes off her jewelry and she throws it down. How frightened, look, once again, you're up there, 33,000 feet in the sky, in a chariot that is rocking madly, two testosterone-filled men out there fighting each other to the death. You have enough presence of mind to say, let me take this off and throw it down. So somebody knows what's happening. Tell me stories about that. Tell me what makes her find the strength to do that. We don't. And hence, when you grow up not hearing stories about strength, that can come in so many different ways. The only ones that we heard were a woman's strength is her sacrifice and her silence, which most of us automatically rebelled against, even without knowing that we were rebelling. We don't want to be that woman, right?
Absolutely.
Or strength was muscles and weapons.
Very masculine.
Yeah. Where did you find the place where it said, you can wear your sari, you can wear your jewelry, you can do your shringhar, your nakra, and still be a strong woman and manage everything? We were not told that.
We were not told that. I find very interesting, the most interesting person for me in the Ramayana is Shurpanakha.
Yeah.
Because here's a woman going up to a man and saying, I find you hot.
Yeah.
I want to sleep with you. He says, sorry, I'm married. My wife's here. But you can ask my brother. The brother says, sorry, I'm married too. But then the brother cuts her nose off. Why? I couldn't figure that out. Why is she being punished for expressing desire? Would a man in the same place be punished?
I was just going to say, how come men are no longer punished for that? It's always like nobody said that these guys were just looking too hot for their good. Why were they like this? You know? It's always the blame is put on the woman, right?
Speaking of the women in mythology, Seema, we have these archetypes, the virgin, the whore, the pure wife, the chaste wife. And I think we're still carrying that over even today, of course. But the women of today are not agreeable to being slotted into these segments. Women are fine. We're not going to be boxed into these stereotypes. Do you think there's a dissonance happening? I mean, in all the responses that you get and in all the mails and DMs and whatever come to you, do you think there's this dissonance between what women want to be and what men expect them to be?
Yeah, I think when you put something into a box, it's just so much easier, right? Oh, this is the chaste wife. She deserves our respect. This is the independent woman who is just sort of embodying her sexuality, her sensuality. She is somebody that we don't need to respect. This one, you know what I mean? Like there is this black and white divide. We're human beings. As human beings, we exist on the entire spectrum. We have everything within us. When you start to say, I'm looking at you as a human being, you have the chance today to be kind and loving when I need you to. Tomorrow, you're angry with me about something. You have the right to be as angry and sort of yell at me if that's that's what takes your desire to do. Today, I find somebody that I'm so attracted to, I will be attracted to them. Today, I will also decide that even though I'm very attracted to that person, I'm committed to somebody else. I will bring my own strength of mind into play and be that committed person no matter what. There's a million things. I mean, we have anger, we have softness, we have gentleness, we have love, we have lust, we have whatever within us. Why is it that is not expected? And why is it such a surprise when women have that? It's like people are like, oh, but she was like this. And, yesterday we had this mega argument about a lady who is in Bollywood, and she's an older woman, and she has a reputation for being quite an angry person. And no, it's not Jaya Bachchan, just in case, because that's what first springs to mind. But, this idea that, so there was this huge argument about the fact that she comes across in a very unpleasant way. And somebody else said, well, she's had to put up with a lot of shit all her life. There's no reason why she shouldn't. But the argument was within the women. And I loved it because, I mean, we were all so vociferous about it. It's like we were all standing up for the fact that, but mujhe ye nahi acha lagta, but why shouldn't she do this? But usne usko aise, that whole thing. And then we kind of finished the argument by saying, okay, let's just say that this is how she is because this is how she chooses to be at this point, but she also can be like this and so on, because we're human beings. And I just think, yeah, I think that enough. We have been objectified to the point of this. Like women are, you have your labels of what you're supposed to be. This makes you a good woman. This makes you a bad woman. You have nothing else except your genitalia. You are either a virgin or a whore, depending on what your vagina has done. You know what I mean? Like everything is just based around that. That's it. You're an object. You're not a human.
And also your reproductive age. Whether
yeah, everything is based around that little bit of genitalia. That's what it's sort of defines you. What about the rest of me? I have arms. I have legs. I have a face.
A brain. We're not supposed to have brains.
We're not supposed to have brains. We're not supposed to have brains.
Not needed. And something that's been intriguing me, we've had a culture, we've had an heritage of erotica. From the Kama Sutra, from the walls of Khajuraho, all over. We don't build on that lovely heritage. What we've sunk into is porn as a people. And the female gaze is nowhere to be seen. It's only the male gaze. Why? Why is this not changing even now when we have women who are creators?
Because, like I said earlier, it's about, so we've come to this point through control. The Vatsyayana in his introduction to the Kama Sutra says that men for centuries, men have always been able to come. They've been able to get to their arousal very, very quickly. Now you tell them that it's really important that women also get to their arousal, that it's not just like that, that it takes time. And it's really important that they reach that space really carefully. And it's important that your partner is with you on that journey to bring you to arousal, to get you to that point. Why should they do it? Because they've been able to do it so quickly. A woman takes so much longer. Her pleasure is more complex. Why should they spend that time doing it? And then he says, they won't unless you make it aspirational. Give them a reason that makes sense to them. They have to be given a reason. So he says to the men, he says, if you can bring your wife, your woman, fully to pleasure, your business will start to do better.
How lovely. What a smart guy. Can we spread that message out louder and wider?
Absolutely. And I just think, and he says, she will not waste your money. She will not go out doing things with other people that you don't want to. She's fully pleasured. She will look after your home. She'll look after you. She will look after the money that you earn and bring to the house. She'll be totally on your side. And we are like, that makes sense.
So he's basically telling men, you make sure she comes.
Make sure she comes. Make sure that she is totally happy in bed with you, whatever you're doing, so that your life becomes better.
I think a lot of men of today need to listen to this.
They do need to listen to this. Now, what I find is that we have created a culture of making everything taboo. There's a lot of men that I know in India who are in their mid-20s, who would like to be in a physical relationship, but have never had sex and do not feel that they will easily find a partner with whom they can. It's not that easy for most guys. It's certainly not easy for women, but it's definitely not easy for men either. And this is where the problems start, because they have desires, they wish to have somebody. They end up then going to sex workers to fulfill themselves. I'm talking about the nicer people. They will go there because the not so nice ones, as we know, will assault. But you end up going to sex workers, or the simplest bit is you start to watch porn. And the problem with porn is, I know a lot of people who are creators, So women who actually create content, women who actually act in the content, etc. And, there is obviously, again, a spectrum. There are people who are trafficked into it. The what we call ethical porn is where women are obviously choosing to as well be part of the industry. Most of the ethical porn is behind a paid wall.
Mm-hmm.
The free porn is
what is out there.
Yeah. Which is, of course, then leading you to spend on other things, etc. But the problem is that it is so quick and needs absolutely no work from your side to do this. So you have your visuals. You don't have to think it up. You have your visuals. You have your, it's very, very quick in front of you. You have a narrative that's supplied to you where you are literally imagining yourself. Let's say if you're a man, imagining yourself in a world where every woman is, the moment you want sex, every woman is just waiting to have it with you. There's nobody saying no. And you can ejaculate very quickly and you
pleasure your woman at the same time.
Well, no, that doesn't even come into it.
They're not bothered about that.
No, because the woman's pleasure as it is being shown for the camera is not really how most women would actually find pleasure.
Yeah.
So what they're watching is more about what they think is happening, and that is then getting them excited. It also happens with a lot of women. I've had women say to me that I watch porn and I masturbate to that and I get very excited when I see it. But when my partner does the same touch or whatever, I'm not finding it exciting. Because what you're doing is you're watching somebody else get excited. And at the same time, if you're self-pleasuring, you're touching yourself the way you want to, which is what is making you come. But you don't realize that. You think that
is making you,
So the problem is that, yes, porn has its space in your life. I know a lot of people who've said to me as couples that they watch it together. It's really good for their sex lives. There are single people who say that they use it for self-pleasure. Great for them. I think you have to learn to take accountability and responsibility for what you watch and understand how you are going to react to it. Of course, the fact that we never talk about it means that how do people understand to do this? But that is it, right? Anything like if you go to a restaurant and have a massive helping of tiramisu after every meal, you know what's going to do to you. You know it'll give you raised cholesterol. You know you're likely to get diabetes. You know you'll get blocked arteries. You know these things. But does anybody tell you that if you watch this kind of porn, this is the reaction that you'll get from inside? This is how you'll feel. This is how you need to deal with it. Or make a good choice about what kind of porn you're going to watch. Because there is destructive porn as well.
Absolutely.
So I just think that when you watch too much porn, it can definitely destroy your mind. It can definitely take you down a path which can make you, you forget how to be a partner. Forget about what you're doing to other people. You forget that the other person with you when you're going to be in partnered sex is a human being. There will be...
The partner becomes an object at the end of it all. Yeah.
So I think that unfortunately, however, the other side problem is that where else do you go even to... Most people actually learn about sex from porn. It's the worst place you can go to learn about sex. It's not where you should be going, but that is where they go. Otherwise, even to do a basic position, who teaches you what to do? Somebody's got to teach you. Sex is not something that happens automatically. It takes work and understanding. Our genitalia don't just slide into each other. They're awkwardly placed. You have to do stuff.
You figure it out. That's where your book comes in.
That's where the book comes in. So these questions were literally written by people to me about some of the simplest things.
So what were the most common questions that you got, and which are the ones that you've really enjoyed putting into this book?
So the very first question that I got was from people so the most common questions are guys wanting to be cuckolded. So they're wanting to watch their wives or their partners have sex with somebody else. Yeah. That is one of the most common things that women write in about, saying, my partner wants me to do it. I don't really want to, but I have to give in because he says that's the only thing that he wants from me. Erectile dysfunction is still at the top of the list.
Really?
Yeah, that's still at the top of the list. But then there were some more nuanced ones. So the first one I actually started with was this woman who said that her husband wants her to sleep with somebody else. He wants to watch. She says, I didn't want to do it. I finally agreed because he asked so many times. So when we talk about consent, this is not our idea of consent, where somebody keeps saying, try it na, ek bari kar lo na, meri khushi ke liye kar lo na.
That's emotional blackmail.
Yeah. But she finally gives in. So they go to a different country, she says. They get what's called a bull. A bull is the person who's hired to have sex with your wife so that you can watch. And she says that even though I didn't want to do this, I enjoyed the experience. Like it was pleasurable because this man really knew what he was doing. And then she says, now I find that this has brought us closer together because we can now, husband and her, we can share our fantasies with each other. But then the rest of the question shows that they're not actually closer together because she says, but I'm worried because now she thinks we've done it once. Ho gaya. It has made him more adventurous. Now he wants to experiment further. She says, I don't want to, but I don't know how to tell him because if I tell him, he may go out and cheat. So these are the fears that you carry because who's explaining what to do?
My curiosity is...
one more thing, which is even more worrying. She says also, because I really enjoyed it when it happened, even though I didn't want to, now I feel guilty about saying no.
That was my first thought. What if she enjoys it more with the other person than with her husband? What is her husband going to do after that?
That also happens. We've got questions on that also in there. But I just feel that we teach women that boundaries are something that you can lay down. When somebody wants you to try something, even if you agree to doing it, lay down your boundaries saying, whether I enjoy it or not, if I don't want to do it again, I will not do it again.
Exactly.
It is okay to say that. It is also okay to understand that your body will react with pleasure to a certain touch, whether you want it or not.
There's no guilt to it.
Yeah. It's what we call arousal non-concordance. It happens. You as a man, somebody with a penis will get an erection even in scary moments if the stimulation is correct.
Okay.
It happens.
It happens.
There are certain visuals or thoughts, even if you don't like the idea, they will arouse you, even as a woman. You get that. Your body will react a certain way. Like if you bite into a ganda apple, you don't know it's got a worm inside. You will still get that watering in your mouth. In spite of the fact, even the worm coming out doesn't change how your mouth will water. And nobody will say to you, how dare your mouth water? Okay. Because there was a worm inside.
It's a physiological
response. So that was the first question that I decided to respond to because I realized that you cannot do this in 30 seconds, 60 seconds reels now, But it's gone so much more nuanced. So for instance, there was a woman who wrote and said that her husband cheated on her because he said that you have become too religious. She says, I've started doing some jap and fasts. You become too religious, which means that I've lost my libido, my attraction for you, but have started to respect you instead. And now that I have done this, it has brought my attraction back for you. So it's fixed it. And she is now like this saying, was it my fault? And did he fix it? Like now the idea is that wo cheat karke usne sab theek kar diya. We can understand the gaslighting, right?
Totally,
However, look at the cultural conditioning that we have, which also says, if somebody is spiritual, you have to respect them. You cannot be sexually attracted to them. We have that. Sexuality and spirituality cannot mix. We say that all the time.
But yet we have one of our gods and most beloved gods who was such a sensual creature.
Yeah. But we have sanitized that. Today's society says, and you can almost hear the conversation, even like we don't teach guys to communicate. We tell people your idea of attraction is you look at somebody, you get an erection. That's the only, it's like when we talk about looking sexy. for the longest time, the only thing that we have been told is small black number, like a short black dress, that's sexy. If we were given 5 options always of sexiness, you wear a sari, you can feel sexy. You could be maybe feeling sexy in a pair of blue jeans and a white shirt. You could be feeling sexy in khakis. I don't know. We all have our own idea of what makes us feel sexy. But the image that young boys and girls are growing up with, the magazines only show that one image of the little black number. And so whether you like that little black number or not, that's what you're doing.
You force fit yourself into it.
Yeah. And it is exactly the same with this idea of chemistry. That sometimes chemistry can be mellow. Sometimes it can be the comfort that you have with each other. Sometimes it can be that arousal is not automatic. It takes time.
It takes time.
And no matter what it is, no matter how you feel that, okay, my libido went down over here, you talk to each other and you work at it. Who's told that?
You don't go out and cheat and say that I lost my libido for you.
But nobody ever teaches you to do that, right? Particularly men are told, oh, men can have sex without emotion. We tell men that. Why are we not telling them that every emotion that you feel is an emotion? Lack of interest is an emotion, believe it or not.
And women can feel the same. They can have sex without emotion too. Why is it restricted to men, right? And why do women feel guilty if they do it?
And the thing is, there is no such thing as emotionless sex. I'm sorry. I actually feel that everything has an emotion. It's a different emotion.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, even if it's just what we call pure lust.
That's
it's an emotion.
Right, absolutely.
Right? So, but like I said, this particular question really had me going because I spent like 4 weeks. I had a 4-month deadline to get the book done. 4 weeks I thought about this because I wanted to be fair to the others. I really wanted it to be balanced. I wanted this book to be as helpful as possible. We've picked a range of questions from people saying, we were getting on really well. Then the Kundalis have said, we cannot be together. What do we do now? I've answered that. I have answered things like people saying my boyfriend recorded me without consent. We have talked about that in there. We have talked about how a lot of people write in saying, I get these horrible dreams which have violent sex in them. And it's really bothering me. And every time I mention it, my mother says, puja karwa lo. You know, and there's a lot of people who go through that. We've responded to that. We've responded to when I say me, I have responded to almost everything. The only thing that I have not touched upon, because I didn't get a chance to, is oral sex. I was just thinking it's too vast a subject. I don't know if I can cover it the way I want to. HIV, we didn't write because the doctor that I'd got to create at the last minute said, I can't put my name to it because in the NHS, sometimes there's a conflict of interest.
Okay.
So we dropped that chapter.
Okay.
I didn't want to do it without their name. But anal sex, you would not believe how much time I spent on that. I did one chapter with a colorectal surgeon to explain the physiology of the anus and what to expect. Then I did one chapter with people who practice it to understand point by point what kind of sensation you are likely to feel. If it is like this, it is okay. If it's like this, stop. If it's like this, pause. Point by point, because this is one of the biggest problems at the moment. Straight couples where women are saying that the husband really wants to try it and I'm dying of pain, I've got injured. Young queer boys who are saying that they do it out of pressure because if they say no, they will lose out on that relationship. They lose out on the date. And a lot of them get injured. They don't know how long to wait before they get okay. And then they damage their rectal passage permanently. So it was about just being as helpful as possible.
Lovely. What were the biggest myths that you came across and that you've tackled in the book?
Oh my goodness. Loose vagina. The loose vagina myth. Yay, the loose vagina myth. The good girl syndrome. That a lot of us have. That my mother is really good. She gives me all the liberty in the world. I do not want to let her down by exploring myself sexually. which then turns into other issues. The fact that pain during sex can happen for a number of different reasons, but pain at any point is not okay. Whether it is from lack of lubrication, it could be from an STI, it could be from a UTI, it could be from a discharge that you're getting, which you're being told, nahi, theek hai, sab theek hai. Like literally, and that also I worked with a sexual health consultant. We went through each bit separately. So there's a chapter on each thing to say that it isn't normal to have pain during sex if you're not expecting to have pain during sex. It isn't normal to say hello. It's not your job to say hello. If there is pain, there is a problem. It needs to be sorted out. And I think one of the most interesting ones that we did was with somebody on BDSM and kink.
Okay.
Where this lady actually uses it to heal trauma. So how do you use consensual, non-consent practices to deal with assault, trauma, abuse?
Very interesting.
And heal. And I found that a fascinating chapter.
And there's not much spoken about that
There's
at all.
never anything spoken about it because particularly in spaces, like in India, there's a lot of kink communities that are coming up, which is fantastic because they've got the place to go to for support, but there's still not enough understanding because it's still seen as subversive. It's below ground. There's not enough understanding of it to have explored it beyond the basic.
Lovely. What's coming next from you, Seema?
Oh my God. Abhi to yehi kar lete hain. Yehi
I remember when you wanted to write it and you would keep saying, and I've not written anything. And I would say 500 words.
Yeah, literally, you're the one who helped me to start. You'd say, like, just write anything that comes into your head. Kiran, that's how that book got written. So actually, we should have dedicated it to you, to just say that it got written because of you. It was very, very difficult to write. It was very... and I think one other thing that I've tackled in 2 chapters, which I want to mention, I interviewed 2 young male sex workers last year.
Okay.
Who told me that 70% of their clients are straight married men.
70%?
70%. Straight married men who literally will go to male sex workers for their pleasure because it comes with no judgment, no expectation, and no pressure. And it's not because they're gay. It's because they're straight.
That's a very difficult statistic to wrap one's head around.
Yeah. And there have been people writing about it. So 2 or 3 of those questions. And they're fascinating. For me, half the fascination of the book is the questions. Because I said that we weren't even going to change the grammar in the questions.
Did you?
No.
It went as is?
The questions as they have come have been put out as they are because they create so much nuance. So everything from... I cannot give my partner an orgasm. Does that mean I'm really bad at sex? Everything we have actually dealt with over here.
Lovely. It sounds fascinating. All the very best for the book and for the book promotion tour and everything that you're on. Thanks so much, Seema, for taking time out for this. It was lovely chatting with you, as always.